Welcome back to Craic on the Coast, your home for Irish history, culture, and community from the South Shore of Massachusetts to the shores of Galway Bay. I'm your host, Michael Schilling, and today's episode steps onto the baseball diamond with a conversation that brings together heritage, sport, and brotherhood. I'm joined today by two very special guests. First, John Fitzgerald, the founder and CEO of the Irish American Baseball Society, an organization that's been connecting America's pastime with the spirit of the Irish diaspora. And also with us today is National President of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, Sean Pender, a man I would say who knows most how culture and community can walk hand in hand. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on today. This is a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
great
Mike.
to be with you.
Now, I would say before we get into the overarching partnership that AOH and the IABS has entered into, I would just want to kind of take a look back at last weekend. Last weekend, our division, the Father John Murphy division, was very honored to be part of. Is it the first game that has been played at the Brockton Rox, John? Was that last weekend?
Yes, that's correct.
So
Yep.
for the first time ever, in a partnership with our local Brockton Rox, an independent league team, the Irish Wolfhounds played the Boston Jakes Baseball Club, which was made up of Boston Fire Department. And we had a great day. Our division was able to be part of opening ceremonies. We enjoyed the game. Very good baseball. And a friend of the division, Maureen Haiti, was the anthem provider and sang the Irish and American national anthems prior to the game. And I would just like to say, I thought for an introduction into what I hope in our area is a consistent partnership between local organizations, the AOH, organizations such as yourselves, John. I thought the first introduction of that went really well. And I was very glad that we were a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your help and everybody involved. It was great to get the team to Massachusetts. We've been had that on our list for a long time, and we're just really happy it went well.
Great. Now, one question I would have is how did you guys get hooked up with the Brockton Rox of all places?
Well, so being a baseball organization, we do have a lot of contacts and friends within the game, all levels from Little League up through the majors. And the Wolfhounds actually started in 2023 in Rockland County, New York, with the New York Boulders. And the general manager of the Boulders is actually now the president of the Brockton Rox. So he had a few years of working with us under his belt, and he was just like, look, we're doing an Irish Heritage Night. Would you guys want to be involved? And we've just been waiting for the opportunity to get to Massachusetts, and things just kind of all fell into place.
That's great. And it's funny, one thing that is common thread through most of our shows here is the idea of, and it's not just, we're not privileged in this, but I think any cultural community has ties, and you find out everything is 2 degrees of separation. I got to you had hooked me up with the current manager of the team, Jim Dolan, and we texted and everything else, and I get to the ball field and I get on the field and start talking with him, realize that he actually coached my high school baseball team and didn't coach me, but he coached my youngest brother. So all of a sudden everything clicks, and my brother actually attended the game with his 2 young sons. And it just was really funny how, you think when you get involved with other organizations, there's going to be all these new connections and new people to meet. And then you realize that, the people on the other side of the aisle already. So I think it's great how things come together that way.
There's a lot of that in baseball, and there's certainly a heck of a lot of that in the Irish American community. So we see a lot of that stuff all the time, and it's really great to see. And I hadn't heard that story from Jimmy. So that's really that's a fun story.
Oh yeah, and he already started, he was getting on me early on. He goes, "You got to get your brother involved in this. He would love this stuff because he's since removed and out of college and has a family and everything else, but baseball, I mean, he played baseball in high school and college, and that's always been a passion of his. So I'm going to try to push him in that direction. I think he'd enjoy it."
That's great. Thank you.
Now, Sean, from our organization standpoint, like we talked about before we got on, the partnerships that the AOH is making right now, this is another example of another one, and sport and culture kind of go hand in hand. And I think this is something that definitely would be beneficial for Irish America, and it's exciting what they're doing over in Ireland as well with regards to introducing the game over there and just our exposure on both sides of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a two groups that can work together to mutually promote each other. And I know that the goals of the Irish American Baseball Society, for the future are very exciting, and we hope to be part of that. And I think from our first engagement, I had learned a lot more about IABS, and also, like I said, their future goals. And one of the first things we did together was, all of the players on the club are Irish citizens, and that's one of the things that we promote as well. So about 3 months ago, our immigration chair sat down with John and myself and the New York consulate, and we did a webinar, which is available on both our websites and our YouTube channel, on the proper ways to be able to attain your Irish American citizenship. So we thought the first thing we would try to do together is to give something back to the Irish American community, to let them learn and give them a resource. So there are folks out there who are spreading some information that's not entirely correct. So we wanted to go right to the source, the Irish government, and to give that details out and provide a service to the broader Irish America.
I think that's great because, to be honest, a few weeks ago, I was involved in a community engagement meeting with Neil Richmond, who's over here for the ESP and coming up with their diaspora strategy. And he was asking for input. And one of the things I brought up exactly was that, Sean, because we've heard stories and had division members who are so desperate to be able to make that connection and get their dual citizenship that I feel like they've been taken advantage of, financially and emotionally, because they were told that they could get that and achieve that, when in reality, either the process is a lot more drawn out than what's being communicated to them, or they're just so far removed, it would take an act of God for it to happen. So I think the idea that you guys got together and put that webinar together and have that available, I think that's really important for the diaspora here and to be honest, anywhere in the world, because of how far reaching the Irish are. So I thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. And I know that speaking of far reaching, I know that this podcast has definitely grown. So for those that are listening, really, it has to be parents or grandparents. If you can trace back to there and have the needed documentation, then you can go proceed for your Irish citizenships. There's people out there saying you can go through great grandparents, and every indication we have, and through the Irish government, that's just simply not the case.
Right. And I would say, so I went through that process, more than 10 years ago now, because I made sure I did it before my children were born. And it was a lot harder back then to get the records that were required, especially with regards to my grandmother over in Ireland and everything. And now with them digitizing a lot of those records, it's definitely easier now than it ever has been. So the process, I think you guys did a good job on the webinar, and I think it's something that, like you said, it's given back to the Irish American community. I think that's great. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So, John, how did you get involved? Or I guess, how did the whole IABS come about, and what was your inspiration for trying to put the organization together, and what you thought it would be when you first started out?
So, well, that's a great question, and I'll try to keep it brief. It basically goes back to 2006. Out of college, I was in the film and TV industry, and I made a documentary about the history of baseball in Ireland. It was the history that we knew at the time, and baseball had been played in Ireland, we thought, for about 10 years. And so I made a documentary, and it actually was sponsored by an Irish vodka company in the U.S. And they showed the film around the country. So I went all over the U.S. We showed it in Ireland as well. And people wanted to get involved. They wanted to donate and just see what they could do, donate equipment or donate their time. And there was no facility to do that. There was no way to do that. So I started a nonprofit called Emerald Diamond International. The name of the film was Emerald Diamond. So we started Emerald Diamond International with some help from my parents and some friends that were involved in baseball in Ireland. And that was 2006. And so Emerald Diamond International is the parent organization of the Irish American Baseball Society. And we've been running and supporting youth baseball clinics and camps and clubs since 2006. So in 2019, we started the Irish American Baseball Society because we could tell that there was this interest and this bubbling, energy around learning more about like the history of baseball and how it ties in with the diaspora. And then also I personally was helping to recruit and shepherd players through the citizenship process. So I'm proud to say I helped 45 or 50 players through the process so they could play for Team Ireland. And I also started the Irish 18 and under junior national team. So there was just so much interest, the families of the kids that were playing for Ireland and coaches that we were sending over and things like that we knew that there was kind of room for growth and a way to kind of create a cultural organization that was centered around baseball and the Irish connection to it. So we started that in 2019. And it's just, it's grown by leaps and bounds. And we're lucky enough to say that we're now the home of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame, which is currently looking for a home, but it's got, the involvement of some really recognizable names in the game that have Irish heritage and are very proud of it. And one of the things we try to do is find out which players have heritage. Maybe they don't know about it, or maybe they know about it, but they don't know much about what that means or what that is or where their family was from. And so we have a genealogy researcher who tries to unearth that information, and we share it with guys and their families. Sometimes like Mike Trout, I don't know Mike Trout, but I know that we gave him a diaspora award last year, and his mom is really into the Irish heritage portion of it. So we found out where his family was from, which off the top of my head I can't remember, but those are the types of things. Giancarlo Stanton from the Yankees, actually, we gave him an award because his great-great-grandparents came over in the mid-1800s, and he actually knew where they settled. So he had already heard the story from, I guess, his dad's side of the family. And he was like, oh, yeah, they came over mid-1800s. They settled in Nebraska. So we were just like, wow, we thought we were gonna tell you that. But that's amazing that he knew that. But these are things that, like, no one would ever come up to him and mention his Irish heritage, but he was aware of it and he knows about it. And so those are the types of connections we try to, help foster and help these players make. But again, going back to, your experience last weekend, a lot of it is connecting people that, maybe they don't know they have a shared passion for baseball, or maybe they don't know that they're both Irish. But there's a lot of people in the organization that coach their kids in Little League or longtime high school coaches or college coaches. And we try to recognize them and give them a place to share their memories and their thoughts on baseball and the Irish experience.
That's great stuff. I mean, that's to be able to offer that to people and like you said, it brings exposure to the culture along with your organization and everything else. I mean, that's great stuff. Now, do you guys, with the citizenship that you're, getting players through the process and everything else, and you'd have to educate me, I'm not sure about some of it, not the citizenship part, but has Ireland ever participated like in the World Baseball Classic? Would your players be eligible, or would they be able to put a team together if they hadn't before based on your roster?
Yeah. Ireland has enough talent to get to the World Baseball Classic. The issue, which is something that we've brought up, is that there's currently a quota that's restricting the number of dual citizens that can even play for the team, much less try out. There's actually no tryout. So we know there's over 50 players with college and pro experience that are still actively playing very high levels, minor league baseball, couple in the major leagues, and college players. And to get to the World Baseball Classic, you don't really have to be, a major league team. We're talking about, if you're college level or pro level, minor league baseball level, you can beat a lot of the teams that are in the WBC. You're not going to beat Japan. Ireland's never going to beat the U.S. Or the Dominican Republic, but they can play on the same field. And we actually sent our Wolfhounds team down to Arizona in the spring to play Team Germany, because Team Germany actually was in the World Baseball Classic qualifiers from the European pool. And so we went down, we played them. We lost both games, but they were close. And that was actually the first time we unveiled the AOH logo on our jersey, which was pretty cool to do it on an international stage against a German team that was very surprised that Ireland had the players that we have. So yeah, we're working on that. We'd like to see Ireland in the World Baseball Classic, just for pride purposes, but also because what that would mean would be that Major League Baseball would fund youth baseball in Ireland to the tune of several $100,000, which is exactly what they do in Great Britain. The clubs in England are the beneficiaries of a lot of funding, simply because they embrace their dual citizens and they put them out on the baseball field and they get to the WBC. So that's what we're urging Ireland to do.
Now, is that quota, is that a regulation that's imposed by Ireland itself or by the World Baseball Classic organization?
It's imposed by the Baseball Federation in Ireland.
Okay.
So it's not a government thing, and it's not a WBC or Major League Baseball.
Okay. I find that interesting because last week we had the CEO of Ireland Lacrosse on, and me and you had this conversation on the phone, and he was talking about how in their world stage, there are countries that heavily rely on their diaspora players to be able to field a team and to qualify and be at that level. And he talked about, Ireland is a country, Italy is a country, Israel is a country that rely heavily on their diaspora to be able to put those rosters and field those teams. And he said that that's kind of been an uphill battle for them with the other teams on the world stage, because some people basically, kind of like basketball in the Olympics, it feels like every team that's playing is just made up of Americans that share, have another passport. And
right. And yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was just you make a great point, and the difference with Ireland is that these players, major leaguers. We've got a guy, Packy Naughton, pitches for the Cardinals. He grew up in South Boston. Guys like that, they want to be involved. They don't just want to play for Ireland. They want to be involved in the development of the sport. They want to go to Ireland, visit, meet kids, teach them. That's the difference between Ireland and the Irish and other countries. Not to disparage other countries, but other countries use Americans that are dual citizens that really, for the most part, don't care. They just don't. Now, Mike Trout, as I mentioned before, and Giancarlo Stanton, they would not qualify for Irish citizenship. But even they and their families, their interest in their Irish roots kind of demonstrates to you the difference between the Irish and, let's say, a German kid or a kid whose parents or one of his parents was born in London. It's a different thing. And if you didn't grow up in America in an Irish American community or family, you might not understand it. But we see other countries use, predominantly Americans, and it's all, according to the rules. And if they can get their citizenship, that's, 100% by the book, and we don't begrudge them that. But the difference is to impose a quota on Irish American players and their families and say, not only can you not play for the team, but we're not even going to have a tryout. What it does is it hurts the development of the game, because these players and their families want to give back to the game. They want to go to Ireland and help and be involved. And many of them have been involved in our work in developing the game at the youth level. But also it robs the children in Ireland of an opportunity to, have baseball heroes that they want to emulate. And if Ireland's not going to make the World Baseball Classic, why would an 8-year-old kid anywhere in Ireland want to play baseball or even care about it? And so that's the case that we've been making. We just want a fair tryout, take the best players, and get Ireland to WBC. Not only for the pride aspect of it, because the entire Irish community around the world could get behind that team, but also because there are children that play baseball in Ireland. They struggle for fields, they struggle for equipment, and we know this because we've seen it. And we're a small nonprofit. We can't fund an entire country, but MLB can. And the key to unlock that is simply get to the WBC. So
Sure.
that's a lot of things at play there, but essentially it comes down to Ireland, and the Irish experience is not like other countries when it comes to sports and baseball. You've got very committed people that maybe they just came upon their Irish roots, or they got the citizenship because they were interested in playing. But for them, that unlocks a whole different set of things with their families where, and most of these kids, it's not unlocking anything. They're aware of it. They want it. They know. I've talked to grandparents that broke down and cried when they found out their son or their grandson was going to play for Team Ireland or for the Irish Wolfhounds. And you can't replicate that anywhere else.
Sure. No, I agree with that. And I totally understand. I mean, we talked last week about how the impact of if Ireland lacrosse qualifies for the 28 Olympics in LA and they're on that world stage, like what that would do for their sport over there, and the recognition of it and the interest of it and everything else. So I understand Ireland getting on that world stage of the World Baseball Classic would have the same impact. So that makes sense. Now, Sean,
I think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you can finish up.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say, as it stands now, I believe Ireland ranks in baseball 10 or 12 spots below Palestine. And we know for a fact, based off of playing, a scrimmage against Germany earlier this year, or just the players that we know that have major league or minor league experience, that, Ireland should be top 10, top 12 in the world. And they're down, I think, in the mid 50s or somewhere. So it's, there's data to back it up, I guess is all I can say.
Sure. And now, Sean, from an organizational thing with regards to us, what John's talking about, and in our organization, the AOH, as much as we are intertwined with Irish American history and culture and everything else, a lot of our missions go back to Ireland itself and helping with regards to certain, whether it's, Freedom for Our Ireland or other, Legacy Act issues and everything else. So what John's talking about with regards to being part of Irish America, but also bringing stuff and bringing those passions back to Ireland itself really fits in with our organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just think that you can see kudos to John for all the work he's done, and this has really been a passion of him to get here. And I followed it as coming up. I remember going into, and I believe it was Foley's, right, John? Isn't that where the unofficial Irish Hall of Fame was for the longest time?
Yes.
In New York City, which was a great Irish establishment there, and that got me more interested. And then as we were talking about this engagement last year, I went to the Mets played the Phillies in London, which is a yearly event that the MLB has been doing, I believe, in London and maybe even Germany. And it was really one of the greatest events I've ever was at. It was just a lot of great experience, both a lot of people from the States going over, a lot of people living in the England expats from here. Every jersey in Major League Baseball was there. And, I would just think how successful the college football and now football will be in Ireland. In my head, I could see how, Dublin could be a tremendous place for, Major League Baseball also to have games. And I think by promoting Irish American Baseball Society, that can start those conversations, going. As John has mentioned, there is some preliminary interest in what getting into the World Baseball Classic could do and what, Major League Baseball could do as well. And I think it's great also when you see the work they've done, also finding out, Giancarlo Stanton is really not one of the most, it's not Michael O'Leary, but it's great to know that someone like that appreciates their Irish heritage and is honoring, in that case, even a couple of generations or more by. So that's, I think, a tremendous, part of this, letting people know about their heritage and what brought them to where they are today.
That's great. And from one interesting question I would have for you, Sean, is that we have other partnerships, like you spoke about earlier, the USGAA, that is definitely more entrenched in Irish history and Irish culture, but it feels like the IABS is it's just starting out. It's something that isn't long standing, and yet you guys had the foresight to enter into this partnership. What's your goal for our organization with regards to how this partnership's going to go moving forward, and what you see, how it will impact not only us and them here, but also in Ireland as well?
Well, I think, we're at a place right now that we're going to be 190 years old next year. So please God, in 10 years, we'll get to 200, and that's something we can be very proud of. But what we do now, I think, is going to show us what type of health we'll be at 200. I want to make sure, and our leadership now wants to make sure we're a strong, vibrant, growing organization that can get there. And we need to do things a little bit differently. We need to try to get younger, use social media, use all those type of tools, but also look for strategic alignments and sponsorships and agreements with other groups as well. The one thing that always jumped out at me is the tremendous social media outreach the Irish American Baseball Society has done, the great job that they've done with their branding. So while it might be a small number of players and administrators, their reach is amazing. Now with the USGAA, we had the same thing, but we've got more membership. So all we're trying to do with get them is we support them, they support us, and hopefully people either through their membership or through their social media outreach would think about, hey, let me think about what it is, what the Hibernians are, and maybe that aligns with what I could do, and become a member, or at least look a little bit farther into what do I need to do to get that membership.
That's great. And I would say, and John, you hit on this with regards to your players and what you're providing. Even in an area that is so densely populated with Irish and Irish Americans as Massachusetts and New England are, here at our division in Plymouth, we do feel like, I don't know any other way to term it other than that I feel like there's an Irish cultural renaissance going on. And that might be because, the majority of Irish America, just like Giancarlo Stanton, is 3 or 4 generations removed. I think a lot of people are always looking to understand where they came from. And so you're in a part of our history in our country here where if your family might have emigrated, like we're saying, 3, 4 generations ago, but you're looking for that information and you're looking to understand what they would have been like, what they would have went through, what their culture was like, and kind of celebrate it. And we always say here in Plymouth, most of the stories we tell are immigrant stories, not just Irish stories. But I do feel like here anyway, that's the kind of sentiment. A lot of people that enter our organization now and they're interested in becoming a member, it's not necessarily because how it was 100 years ago, where they're either direct Irish or just second generation. They're third or fourth generation, and they're looking to connect more and understand more about their Irish heritage and the history behind it, and want to get involved and be a community and let it be a community aspect. So I think it just works out how what you're describing and what Sean's describing, it really ties the two together and permeates that attitude with regards to the people that we're serving right now.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I like to say everybody's got their own journey and experience. If growing up Irish or growing up a baseball fan means different things to different people. And we're proud to be partners with the AOH and also SABR, which the Society of American Baseball Research, and so a lot of our members are either AOH or SABR members, or they're adjacent to those organizations. Maybe they have an uncle or a grandfather, that is or was in one of those organizations. And if we can be a bridge to help people learn a little bit more and get their, stick their toe in the water and then, really, use baseball and baseball players and the ancestry there of people they recognize and they grew up rooting for as their jumping off point to become more involved in the Irish community, or just more aware of their Irish heritage and becoming an AOH member. That, we're not a religious organization, but that's, something that we're all interested in helping facilitate, because that's everybody's individual journey. And if that's where it leads them, I think that's great. I've got a lot of friends that are in the AOH that, I've been to events, throughout my life in, the Bronx and Westchester County growing up, and very aware of it. And if we can help in any way, we're all about it.
Sure. And I mean, not to, I'm a baseball person. I grew up playing baseball. Like I said, my family are baseball people. That being said, kind of what Sean's talking about how the AOH is 190 years old. And when we hit 200, we want to take a pulse and see how we're aging with the times and getting involved more in modern day and everything else. It's really not a far off conversation to have with regards to baseball either. And how it's America's pastime for a reason. It's because it's been around as long as it has, and it's competing just like the AOH is competing with a lot of organizations and a lot of time that draws, that other activities that draws people's time. Baseball is running into that same situation with regards to other sports and children's activities that draw, them in multiple directions. And so the focus on baseball might not be what it once was. How do you guys kind of take that into account with regards to growing your organization and the focus being on baseball?
That's a loaded question, and it's a great one. Yeah, I mean, you can't talk to 10 people in baseball and not get the sense of, that the sport, the game has a lot of challenges ahead, and there's a lot of different ways it can go. What we have as a strength, a strategic strength, but it's something we didn't think of, it just happened, is that baseball's got a rich history, and much of that history overlaps with the Irish, the story of Irish immigrants, the diaspora, the second, third, fourth generation. I mean, I think we found last year that Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams both have Irish ancestry. Williams wasn't as much of a shocker, but Mantle was. Now, did they know? I think Williams probably did. Mantle, I don't think he knew. But if he was still alive, we would have made sure of it. But those are the types of things where that history is not going anywhere. It just needs to be mined. And then it needs to be, spoken about and talked about. The challenges with the game going forward, a lot of it really overlaps with what we're doing in Ireland. We're trying to teach the game to kids who have no background in the game. They don't understand it, and there's a lot of sports options, not just newer sports like lacrosse, but obviously we've got sports like hurling and all the Gaelic sports, and we have a partnership with the GAA Rounders organization over there.
So, John, with regards to baseball and everything else, I totally understand what you're saying with how, and that's great that you guys are doing everything that you can do. There's stuff going on now today. Like, I don't know what your opinion is about like the Savannah Bananas, but my attitude is anything that brings people into the park and it's an enjoyable time and it's a fun time, I think that is what's going to bring people in, and it's going to bring kids in right now. I love professional baseball as much as the next person. Like I said, my family, we're baseball people. But my kids have much more fun at the minor league games and the independent league games. We're very lucky. We have, we're a stone's throw from Cape Cod. During the summer, you can go down there and you can see really good baseball with the Cape League. And, but again, I feel like it's a little bit different atmosphere, for those types of settings versus pro baseball right now. And I think that's important, and you've talked about, and you can get into this, you've talked about what you envision like the Irish Wolfhounds games to be going forward. And with regards to the atmosphere that you're hoping that will bring.
Yeah. For the Wolfhounds, we've had a lot of conversations about this over the past few years, because our goal for the first few years was simply to find more players that were eligible for citizenship. And we found over 50 now, I think. But it was kind of it's not easy to find. There's a lot of them, but it's not easy to find 20 players that are available on a given Saturday to play against the FDNY or the Boston Fire Department. These are good players, and they have other game obligations. So that was our goal for a few years. But now, as we look to 2026, we really want to hammer home the cultural aspect of it, because we have this forum, which is a baseball stadium. And, baseball, it's a living, breathing game. There are innings built in. There's time to show things on the video board that can really connect people to places in Ireland. We're big proponents of the Irish language. If you've seen our social media, we've tried very hard to kind of give people an on-ramp to learning a little bit about the language and learning some useful words and phrases. But those are the types of things that we're talking about for next year, that the games really need to take advantage of that opportunity to, let people walk away, and kids especially, with an Irish phrase or some information about baseball history as it pertains to the Irish experience that they didn't know. Maybe they didn't know who John McGraw was, that he was, one of the most successful managers ever. Then his dad was from Ireland. So that's for the Wolfhounds perspective, or from the Wolfhounds perspective. We're looking at ways to take that idea of this team of Irish players and use it as a way to really help people connect with their heritage, or if they're not Irish, just learn more about Ireland. And we're really looking forward to that. As far as getting kids into the game, yeah, everything you said is, minor league baseball tends to be more fun. Getting kids into baseball is tough to do these days, because there's so many competing things, and that's hard for an American to look at. But we've been working in Ireland for 20 years, where it's the exact same thing. Kids want to play Gaelic football. They want to play hurling. They have a familiarity usually with other quote unquote minority sports. And baseball is one of them, but basketball is far more successful, because just like here, you just need a hoop and a ball and you can learn to play. The one thing we found in Ireland that we overlooked for about 10 years is rounders. The GAA sport, it's basically, it looks like slow pitch softball. And so while we were struggling to teach the game, the rules of the game, how do you run the bases, all the stuff to Irish kids, we found that when we were in a mixed public school up in the north, there were Protestant kids and Catholic kids. The Catholic kids got the game way quicker. And we didn't quite understand why, but it was because they had a familiarity with rounders.
Okay.
But they didn't really understand that because rounders is not, it's not a big sport. It's obviously rounders and handball are not even, they don't even take a back seat to hurling and Gaelic football. They're they're a few rows back. So the kids would play it, they understood it. And then when we showed them baseball, some kids kind of understood the rules, or they knew how to swing a bat a little bit, or maybe throw a ball. So we leaned into that, and we've been working with rounders clubs in Ireland for a few years now to get them access to coaching baseball coaches, because it's the same, catching, throwing, and hitting. It's really the same. What we're trying to do here now is to bring rounders unofficially, but bring rounders to the U.S. We've used the same teaching techniques that we used to teach, over in Ireland. We've been using that in our youth programs for ages 4 through 8 for years now. And the way you teach rounders is the way you teach baseball. Rounders has the advantage of you don't need all those extra things that you look at in baseball. Like, you don't need a $200 bat. You don't even need a uniform. You can play with throw down bases. You really just need grass, and they play kickball over there, and they call it footy rounders. You could play kickball, you could play wiffle ball, you could introduce the basics of the game and get kids hooked. I mean, I got hooked on baseball by playing baseball and kickball and wiffle ball. And every kid I knew that went on to play in college or high school or the pros, exact same thing. And I think sometimes in the U.S., we kind of look at baseball and say, my kid's going to go to a training center. He's going to play travel ball. He's going to get a college scholarship. And then if he's good enough, he goes to the pros. But we lose sight of the fact that that's all great. But did your kid fall in love with the game? And did he stay in love with the game? Did he enjoy playing when he was 13, 14, 15? Or was the only goal to get into college? And so what we try to do at the younger ages, 4 through 8, really, is to instill an interest and an excitement in hitting the ball, kicking the ball, running around the bases, chasing your friends and tagging them, and understanding how innings work and outs work and all those things that, again, the kids, some kids in Ireland already have that. And it was really eye-opening to see, because you think of Ireland, you're like, well, how do you teach baseball to an Irish kid who's never played it? Well, you first ask them if they've ever played rounders, and then the light bulb goes off, and then suddenly that kid is teaching his friend who may not know rounders, and now your entire phys ed class is playing a game that looks very similar to baseball. So there's a lot of overlap in the history of the game with the Irish experience, but now there's a lot of overlap in how we teach the game in Ireland and the U.S.
That's great. I'm very intrigued by I've never heard of rounders until I've had the discussion with you. So I'm very interested. I'm also interested, that a lot of that takes place, which it might be just from, the suppression of Gaelic games in the North. And Sean could talk to this. I mean, because lacrosse also is a sport that, you wouldn't think of. You would think modern day it was introduced to Ireland, but then you find out that, it was there 100, 150 years ago, but it was kind of played outside of Belfast. It wasn't something that was in the Republic. So, well, what I would ask, with regards to going forward, with what you're talking about, John, with regards to the environment and what you want to take advantage of during the baseball games and the time that's already built in to have that type of thing. Sean, what do you think about, I mean, a lot of what he's talking about, what John's talking about, Irish language, things of that nature. It does offer a lot of opportunity for an organization as, like ours as well, to introduce people to what we do and what our missions are, that people
No,
might not be aware of.
Absolutely, and when we were working together, one of the things that impressed me was the IABS saw the value in bringing us on board as using our brand for certain things. They're giving out youth Irish baseball heritages, which they're going to be presented by the AOH to again open up us to the youth, but also. One of the things I found interesting is to use AOH historians and subject matter experts and language and everything else to assist the Irish American Baseball Society. So we're in the startup phase right now. This is really the first year, and like I said, we're trying to get more engagement and participation from our internal members and to try to work on this. But in a perfect world, an event like in Brockton or an event like out in Pittsburgh, what does that offer us? Exposure for both organizations, and I think working together and some of our digital coordinators like Chad Gaston and Chris Cook, we've had some success creating what they call geo-fenced type of social media ad buys, where we would say, okay, we'll be in the Brockton area. Come out and based on their likes in social media, you can appeal to certain people in a certain zip code range or mileage range who are interested in Irish culture, heritage, and link in the ball team, IABS, and ourselves, and to try to make these into recruiting events so we can get out and tell the community a little bit about who the AOH is and what American Baseball Society, the goals of them are.
That's great. So, John, I know we had talked about after the initial game in Brockton about how going forward, you got, if everything goes according to plan, you would have a larger slate of games, and I'm correct in saying that you've basically signed or come into an agreement with the Rox as a prime location for that, correct?
Yeah, nothing's official yet, but our goal is to play more games and primarily New York and in Brockton, Rockland County and Brockton, because that's Rockland County is where we've played the majority of our games, and there's obviously a strong Irish population in both of those locations. So, and we're fully aware that there are Irish people outside those areas. And so what we try to do also is send our players to Irish Heritage Nights and have the AOH on the field when we do an Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame induction. So we're trying to play more games, focus more on those two areas. And then, as Sean was alluding to, just having the AOH involved, whether it's having an AOH member throw out the first pitch, setting up a table on the concourse, obviously showing the AOH logo. When we live stream, one of the things we tell our broadcaster is, to make sure you do these reads, and the reads are, these are the partners. This is what the AOH is. This is how you can find out more information. So as Sean said in his opening remarks, we're looking at this. This is only successful if it's successful for both organizations. And going back to Sabre, if we get a Sabre guy who's Irish and ends up joining the AOH through us, that's a win for everybody, and vice versa. And that's, we don't want to be in this to say like, hey, that was great, we did it. We're looking at this as a long-term thing that should benefit everybody, because those three organizations I just mentioned have baseball fans, a lot of Irish, and we take everybody, regardless of if you're Irish. If you have an interest in Ireland and you're a baseball fan, you can join. But obviously, I tell everybody, 80% of our members are Notre Dame fans who are, they love baseball, and so it's just the way it works out, and that's fine. But yeah, if we can be a conduit to bring people from one organization to another to advance the causes of the AOH and the IABS, and ultimately to help kids play baseball in Ireland, that's what we're trying to do. So it's, there's a lot going on, but we're real happy so far with how it's going, and I think in the second half of this year, one of my focuses is going to be is to kind of reach out to different AOH divisions and try to understand what they have on their calendar and see how we can help promote that, whether it's reposting something on social media or getting on a Zoom or having them on a podcast to talk about what they have going on. What are their plans for the holidays and things like that, because there may be other people in our organization that are not in the AOH that might want to check out an event, and that may bring them in. So that's kind of the idea.
That's great. And Sean, what would you say? Because I know things get, we, as AOH members, we do get a lot of information sent to us about things that are ongoing and everything else. But I know when the game was announced at the Rock Stadium, and I brought it up to our membership and everything else, a lot of guys, which this could have been an error on my part. It might have not been something that I had communicated well when I first heard about it. But AOH members have a complimentary membership to the IABS waiting for them. All they have to do is sign up for it.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things we did push that out earlier this year. But now we also have a dedicated resource on our side. I think we'll want to push it up, and don't be surprised if we use the link to this podcast also, so people can learn a little bit, more about it. And I think that's the thing that John and I and our organizations need to do. We need to do a better job planning. This is the first year, but we can sit down and say, okay, what are the games, next year, and then realize this can be a 12-month organization. Where are your players and staff located? Or do they align with our division and boards throughout the country? There's nothing wrong with coming to give a talk at the November meeting, talking about the next season. I think we also need to push out the jerseys and caps, which I think look really, really good. And again, it's. I think we're at the very beginning. We're scratching the surface of what this relationship and partnership can be. And if we get some more people to be engaged with this and participate, I think it can only help both sides.
I agree. The jerseys were really sharp, John. I will say, if there was one available for purchase last weekend, I probably would have grabbed at least one. I know members of ours would have grabbed at least one. And I also know I missed out on my county hat. I know you guys did limited release county hats that looked really neat as well. So
those caps will be coming back soon. What county are you?
Galway. Okay.
Yeah. Those we've got those patches made. We'll get those started up soon. And that's exactly, I think Sean and I are aligned in terms of, getting our players out. We had Ryan O'Rourke, who actually started the game last week.
Yeah, he did.
Pitched for the Mets. Yeah, from Worcester. He pitched for the Mets, pitched for the Twins. And he actually spoke to the division in Hartford with Mike Enright last year, and so that was kind of a template that we'd like to repeat, because these guys have great stories, and they like to meet the AOH members, because, like I said, most of those guys, probably all of them, are not AOH members and could be, and many of them have uncles and dads and grandfathers that are or were in the AOH, and so we'd love to get them out there.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I know, Sean, you agree with this as well, but I remember we had Danny O'Connell, our past national president, in town for an event we were having. And one thing he pressed upon us is that events. He said that's how you keep people aware, and that's how you bring people in. And I think the ability of having something like you're talking about, John, where, I think a lot of times people are really interested. You just have to give them the ability to experience it, and they will show up. We were really lucky through a connection that we had two authors come up, and we held something at our division hall, and both were personally there and witnesses to Bloody Sunday. And they were both there. They were both promoting their books, but they had a conversation, and we put something out on Eventbrite, and we had 100 people sitting in a room. I think stuff like that, and stuff what you're talking about, John, I think if you just give people the resource, they will take advantage of it. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I really appreciate both of you guys coming on today. This was a great discussion. Like I said, this is something I'm excited about because, like I said, I've said it more than once during this conversation. Myself and my family, they're baseball people. I grew up when I could go into Fenway Park and watching games and everything else and playing Little League. And I wasn't as good as my brother. My brother played in college and everything else. And I had to ice my arm after I threw out the first pitch last weekend. But I did not embarrass myself. That's all I cared about.
Well,
But I think this is something that really will play to Irish America, and I think that's a big draw for both
And John,
organizations going forward.
and John has promised me when the Mets win the World Series, he's going to use some contacts so I can get there to hopefully throw out the pitch at one of the World Series games. Being a big Met fan, we had a tie to Ireland for years. The head groundskeeper for the Mets was a gentleman by the name of Pete Flynn from County Leitrim. And one of Pete's famous accomplishments was Pete was the person who drove the Beatles from the dugout area out to the stage when they played in Shea Stadium in 1964. And when I would go to the games, and if I had a good seat and I'd see Pete out in the field, I'd always yell "Up Leitrim." And there's not many people in the 70s and 80s yelling "Up Leitrim" in a game, but Pete would always give me the thumbs up. So we've the Mets have had ties with County Leitrim, and I know Pete is in the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's great.
He is, and his nephew Mike McCarthy is on the board of the Emerald Diamond International Board of Directors and proud member of the IABS.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
great. Great man.
So, John, for our listeners, what would I guess I would say, is there anything coming up that you would promote? Or if you want, we'll put links to all the websites so that people can learn more about the IABS in our show notes. But if there's anything specific that's coming up, or if you just want to make people aware of, go ahead. Now's the time.
Off the top of my head, I know we do have, we've got a meetup happening in San Francisco in, I think it's September. Yeah, it's in September. I don't have the date in front of me, but things pop up pretty quick. And as soon as they do, they're always on irishbaseball.org or our social media channels. So I would say check that out and stay tuned. And any AOH member that wants to, partake in a free membership to the IABS and all that entails, they can head on over there as well. And the more the merrier. We welcome all AOH members.
Great. I will say it does come with a discount on merchandise. That's right there when you go in and you buy a jersey. There is a tag right there for a discount. So
that's true.
Like I said, those jerseys were really sharp, and the AOH logo looks great on them. Sean, not that I'm not a walking ad for our organization, but would you like to add anything in before we go on to one last segment?
No, like I said, I just thank John and IABS for what they've done, and look forward to making this a mutually beneficial agreement between two organizations, and hopefully some of the lofty goals that John's organization is trying to attain, we can be helpful in that. And wouldn't it be great to have Ireland in the World Baseball Classic or Major League Baseball going to do a series over in Dublin or somewhere else in Ireland. So it's been a pleasure working with IABS, and we look for further successes in the near future going forward.
Great. So one last thing that I feel is pertinent to do, and Sean can speak to this as well, because I know he has ties. Before we close today, I wanted to take a moment to remember someone dear to the AOH community, the Irish American family, definitely here in the greater Boston area. And that is that past Massachusetts state president and past national president of our organization, Jack Meehan, recently passed away. I had the pleasure of meeting Jack very early on after I became a member, because he came down for our annual Break St. John Memorial Mass. For people that have listened to the show, you know about the brig St. John and the shipwreck off the coast of Massachusetts, and it was a coffin ship coming over in 1847 that we have an annual mass for. And Jack, the first year I was a member and part of that annual memorial, Jack attended, and I got to meet him then and met him a few times after that. But I know I'm not giving him all the credit he deserves, and I know Sean will probably know a lot more because I know Jack spearheaded a couple of things that have come to fruition over the course of his tenure, and is are staples of the organization today. So, what would you have to say, Sean?
Yeah, we were moved by the bad news that Jack went to his internal reward last week. As you mentioned, Jack was active at all levels of the AOH at the local, state, and national. And in each of those levels, he got to the top level of each one, being presidents at the local, state, and national level. I had the great honor of being appointed by Jack in 2006 out of the Boston Convention into my first position onto the national board, which was Freedom for All Ireland co-chair at the time. And I had known Jack through a lot of the justice events that we were working for, whether it become the Good Friday Agreement, the Malachi McAllister situation. And Jack would also often come down, get on a train and come down to New Jersey or to Washington, D.C. to represent the AOH on that. He was fiercely proud Irish man, a fiercely proud Catholic, a great family man, a fluent Irish speaker. And I think he would not mind, but I think he would actually be smiling to say he was an unrepentant Fenian. Man who wanted, a free and united and just Ireland. In 2006, he became, like I said, national president. Had a very successful, term of office, and we will be forever grateful for what he did for our order. And one of the things that he did that continues to this day was. Jack found out that the Smithsonian Institute was honoring Northern Ireland by putting out a display of the Orange Order, which we had no problem about. But when he approached them and then asked, well, where is the corresponding other Irish community part? They didn't have an answer. So they said, well, what can you give us? Jack at that point reached out to the St. Patrick Center in Downpatrick, which was just starting up at the time. And they were able to come over and to give the story of St. Patrick and talk a lot about the St. Patrick Center, which was created with funds after the Good Friday Agreement. That relationship started with Jack. We maintained it. We have visited. And for those of you that are aware, this was the third year that the AOH now sponsors 10 young Hibernians to go over to the St. Patrick Center to become ambassadors, St. Patrick's ambassadors. So that program only started by past President Jack Meehan hearing of something and saying, no, this is not right. Let's get something involved. And because of that relationship that he started and fostered, we've maintained. It's a great legacy of him. And we can always think of how Jack is still giving back to the order, and especially the younger members of our order, by his foresight in partnering with such a great organization as the St. Patrick Center in there. So, Jack, I know you were at your eternal rest. And if I may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, my friend, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Well done, good and faithful servant.
Thank you, Sean. Legacy is a good word. Jack would definitely be one that I would say has a legacy to live up to. So we raise a glass and a prayer in Jack's memory. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you for the kind word, Sean. So to John and Sean, thank you both for your time and obviously your passion for everything that you're doing right now. And to our listeners, I would thank you for continuing to be a part of this journey that we've started with Craic on the Coast. Be sure to check out the Irish American Baseball Society online. Follow AOH and the IABS on social media for updates on future events and initiatives. You can find us, AOH Plymouth. We're going to be making some announcements in the coming weeks that we have some events that we're coordinating currently. I think our next show, if it schedules outright, we actually might have former Ambassador Claire Cronin on to talk about her time over there in Ireland and what she was able to achieve. So that should be interesting. So a little nugget preview for listeners. So if you enjoyed the show, be sure to just subscribe, leave a review, share it with a friend. And if you've got a story to tell or a topic you'd love to hear us talk about, reach out by emailing us at craiconthecoast@gmail.com. That's CRAIC on the coast@gmail.com. And until next time, whether you're at the ballpark or the pub, keep the crack alive. Sláinte.